Welcome to the Play-by-Play with Patrick and Brandon. You're a home for updates and insights into the sports world. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Play-by-Play. As always, my name is Patrick. I'm here with Brandon. How are you doing today, Brandon?
Doing fantastic. Stayed up way too late watching UFC 318 last weekend, so that's been kind of dragging me down for a little bit, as the results of the main event did as well. But excited to get into the episode today. So,
Yeah, it's been a dry time for sports this past week. With that being said, we still do have plenty to talk about. There's always that post MLB All Star break slump where there's not too much going on, but we're yappers, so we're out here, we're ready to go. And I think I want to start. We talk about the MLB All Star break. I think I want to start just there. The MLB All Star game this year was actually quite exciting, which is not something you expect from modern day All Star games in really any of the big four sports. The results, we had the National League defeat the American League 7-6 in overtime. And one thing they did in overtime, which I thought was really exciting, I believe it was the first time we saw it, they did a swing off. So both the National League and the American League got to pick three batters, and each of them got three swings, and whoever finished with the most home runs at the end of it won. And so obviously the National League defeat the American League in the swing off. Um, they were led by Brent Rooker of the Oakland Athletics. He sent in, um, oh, I'm sorry. It was Kyle Schwarber. I had my notes confused. Wow. Kyle Schwarber of the Philadelphia Phillies. He made good on all three of his swings to secure the W for the National League that led to their win. Where Brent Rooker came into play of the Oakland Athletics, he was the one that kicked off the comeback for the American League. So essentially what happened is the American League was down 0-6 going into the seventh. So it was looking really bad, straight domination for almost the entire game. And then Brent Rooker hit a three-run homer to start the comeback, which led to 6-6 at the bottom of the ninth, which then led to the swing off. So let me ask you before I get into some of my points, Brandon, what did you think of the game?
honestly, like you said, most of these All-Star games tend to be, I don't want to use the word boring, but especially in basketball and football, they've done away with the Pro Bowl completely. Um, they tend to be sort of like half speed, no defense, just a lack of effort. But I think something nice about baseball is that you can still, obviously, the pitchers aren't trying to like throw 100 miles an hour in these All-Star games, but you can still play like decent baseball without like putting yourself at risk of injury. You can still swing a bat, you know, at relatively high effort without like injuring yourself, as opposed to like a cornerback is not going to like lay out for a hit in the Pro Bowl because then you might, injure your shoulder and be out for the playoffs. So I thought overall, like effort wise and entertainment wise, it was definitely a step above your typical All-Star game. And something that I think we have in the notes here, I liked how everyone represented their teams by actually wearing their jerseys. They used to do that in the NBA before they did like unique all-star jerseys, and I think there's something really like special about having all of like the best players from these teams representing their respective franchise with their own jerseys. I think it definitely sort of adds to the aesthetic and makes it feel a little special.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I think there's a lot the NBA can take notes from here. I mean, I thought it was a great game. The comeback was really fun, and then obviously you got the swing off, and the swing off was really exciting. It's a great concept to be added, and I think definitely there are a lot of things the NBA could take notes from, and I think I'll touch on that in a minute. But they definitely need to figure out something like that. I don't know, maybe like a one-on-one tournament or something like that would be really exciting, just to add some stakes to the All-Star break. Because I mean, they play at half speed. No one wants to watch half speed basketball. Excuse me. Um, I agree with you. I like the jerseys, and I think it's not just the jerseys. One thing that I think the MLB really has going for it is the amount of all-stars on an MLB All-Star team really lends itself to the league because every single team in the MLB made an appearance in the All-Star game. They were all represented by at least one player. Some teams obviously had more than one, but everyone got some representation in the game. So everyone had a reason to go and watch this game. It doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter who you're a fan of. You have a player representing you in this game, and that makes it really exciting to me. I think in comparison, we look at the NBA All-Star game. only 22 of the teams had All-Star representation this year, and that's including the Rising Stars team that made it to like the weird All-Star tournament they did. So you have 8 markets just not at all interested in watching your NBA All-Star game. I think another thing I really liked was how they broadcasted the All-Star game. They had plenty of different broadcasts. They had like some cool stat broadcasts where you see like trajectory and velocity of balls or just like different camera angles and stuff like that. I think it was great from the production end. Um, and that kind of thing is cool because it's for the diehard fans. You have the game, casual fans can go and watch your stars hit crazy homers, do all the fun stuff that comes with baseball. But then you have your style broadcast for those dudes that are watching every game that are really into the analytics like that. And that's great for the diehard fans. And I'll bring up the NBA again because the NBA kind of went the opposite way. I feel like an all-star game is supposed to be the attraction of an all-star weekend, you know what I'm saying? And the NBA just got weird. They'll do like LED courts. They'll just try the most random stuff except actually improving the basketball. And, baseball kept it clean. They're just doing stuff that actually, enhances the game as opposed to basically just being a flashy distraction. So that was really exciting. I'm curious if you have anything else to say on that, Brandon.
Yeah, I think the stuff about the NBA All Star game going in the sort of opposite direction definitely rings true. And I know in years past, the NBA All Star game has been basically no defense. And ultimately it's not very competitive. And what I liked about the MLB All Star game is that it was competitive. It was a straight up regular 9 inning baseball game. There wasn't any weird scoring formats. I know the NBA's experimented with having different scoring formats and different layouts for the All Star game, and I think a lot of them come off as gimmicky, and a lot of it ends up uncompetitive. I think if they added a 1v1 tournament, that would be good basketball. It would be definitely make for an entertaining watch because you can't really be uncompetitive in a one-on-one, or you're just gonna lose. And hopefully, I
Exactly.
don't know. I don't know if the NBA's elite would ever agree to doing a 1v1 tournament because I'm sure there'd be a lot of egos hurt there if Kyrie if Kyrie Irving got you in a 1v1 and you're, whoever, say James Harden or Kevin Durant or someone else, you get your ankles taken on national television in a one-on-one tournament. I don't know how they're going to feel about that, but I think the points that the NBA could learn about the NBA could definitely learn a few things from the MLB All-Star break, keeping it clean, keeping it simple, and keeping it sort of true to the sport without adding too much flash or gimmick in there. I think made for a much more enjoyable viewing experience.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, you talk about being gimmicky, and the NBA All-Star game this year, they did a tournament, so 3 All-Star teams instead of 2, and then the Rising Stars team with weird scorings. I mean, I guess the tournament's like kind of a cool idea. You get to see everyone play a little bit more because the teams definitely are smaller. But at the same time, it's just like it's not the same as like real basketball, you know? And they're
Mhm.
still not trying their hardest. They're still not playing it remotely close to 100%. So it's definitely refreshing to see like an actually good All-Star game. That has me excited. And coming out of the All-Star break, we definitely have plenty to talk about in the world of baseball. I think we'll start with the Red Sox, where we left off in our last episode. Their 10-game win streak ended. They lost. It was broken by the Chicago Cubs. Um, so yeah, that sucked. I don't want to say they're repeating history yet, but it's definitely a possibility. Red Sox crumbling out of the All-Star break, definitely something we haven't seen before. And the reason I'm so hasty to say this is not because it was just one loss, which happened. They also lost to the Phillies, and they lost in an absolutely absurd way. They lost to the Phillies, I believe, in extra innings. They lost to a catcher interference call. No game has been decided by catcher interference in 50 years. So that's just completely sloppy baseball, especially when you're going down the wire. That's not something you should be seeing out of a baseball team that's trying to make a run. Now, this could definitely just be um, a one-time fault. It could just be a quick little slump and then they get right back to it. But when you have such a history like this with the Boston Red Sox, it is really tough to look at. And it's frustrating because they've been an exciting team, especially as of late, a couple weeks before the All-Star game. So what are you thinking, Brandon? Where's your head at
Yeah,
with the Red
it's
Sox?
definitely a little concerned. Obviously, sort of the vibes are riding high going into the All Star break. I was very excited with how the team was playing, and they're 1-3 in their first four out the gate post All Star break. As of recording this at roughly 8 p.m. on what is it, Tuesday evening, they're down to Philadelphia 4-1. I think in the top fifth inning. Not a great start to that game. Not a great start to their back half of the season. Obviously, 4 games, small sample size, still a lot of time to right the ship and keep the momentum going, but definitely a little bit of a stumble out the gate. And like you said, Red Sox have had a history of late season collapses. Sure, all of the Boston faithful are hoping that we don't repeat history here.
Yeah, it is really tough to see. I mean, it's very frustrating. The team's still very exciting, and like you said, it has only been 4 games, so they definitely can turn it around. It's just, we've played these games before, so I'm very curious to see what happens there. There are some other teams that are falling off a little bit. One of, excuse me, just coming off a cold, so I'm gonna be a little bit slow on this one. Um, the Detroit Tigers. So the Tigers were, for the first half of the season, by far the best team in baseball. They were the first team to hit 60 wins. I believe as it stands, they're 60-41 on the season. But even before the All-Star break, they really started to slump. They're 3-7 in their last 10, and a lot of their identity has sort of fallen apart. I mean, you look at last year specifically when the Tigers were really good as well, and they sort of made their identity on their bullpen. They had this deep pitching squad that would just come in and be super consistent. They also had a pretty consistent defense, and all of that has sort of fallen apart. Their defense has not been good. Their bullpen has been inconsistent at best. Um, in their last 4 games, they've scored 3 runs. So they're really just falling apart. They're losing a lot. Again, there's still plenty of time to turn it around. But when you fall off that astronomically, closing in on the back half of the season, people start to worry. Have you seen anything with the Tigers, Brandon? Is there anything you want to add?
Not much here. I think you covered most of the important points. Definitely is rough to lose, start feeling your identity crumble in the middle of the season, and obviously 3-7 in your last 10, not the direction you want to be heading in. But I believe the uh, the Tigers got overtaken for the first place spot by a team that both you and one of our viewers hold in high regard. So was wondering if you have anything to say about the Milwaukee Brewers and their
Yeah.
run of form recently.
So I'm actually really excited about this one. Obviously, we had a very interesting start to this episode. All Star game straight into two pretty somber stories in the MLB right now. The Red Sox falling off, the Tigers falling off. But one team that can't relate, obviously, the Milwaukee Brewers, like you said, Brandon. I believe they're on an 11-game win streak, and they're really just popping on all fronts right now. I mean, their pitching's never looked better. They had 2 pitchers go to the All Star game. We look at Trevor McGill, who's been great, and then the Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, has been an absolute freak since he's been starting for the Milwaukee Brewers. I mean, you look at the Miz, he set the record for least starts before an All-Star game selection. He only started 5 games before he was selected to the All-Star team. I mean, that just kind of shows
Wow.
you how prolific he's been. It's kind of insane. He also holds the record for most innings pitched without a run as a new starter. So he started and no runs were scored in his first 11 innings as a starter. Absolutely insane stuff. And I mean, he's a young kid. Realistically, he's only going to be getting better for them. It's nice to see some consistent pitching for the Brewers. And then on top of that, this is what I'm really excited about. We talked about him last episode. I told you we were going to talk about him more. And here we are. The resurgence of Christian Yelich. So he started the season pretty slow. He's been dealing with injuries for a long time. It feels like really since his MVP season, he hasn't been able to stay consistent, stay healthy. But as of late, it seems like we've seen a return to form for the guy. He sits at 19 homers and 51 runs and 66 RBIs on the season. And just a couple weeks ago, I mean, he's doing freak stuff. You look at his game versus the Twins, he had 8 RBIs in one game. He's just driving everybody home. He's a ringer. He's a closer. He's doing everything you can ask for out of a former MVP. It's super exciting to see him healthy and playing his best baseball. Um, they have a couple other guys that are doing absolutely incredible. Contreras has been awesome for the Brewers. I'm super excited for the rest of their season. With how hot they've been recently, if they keep this up, they could really make a deep run in the playoffs. And obviously, there's some problems in the MLB, no salary cap. So you see some teams that are absolutely star-studded, but the Brewers are a very homegrown team right now. It would be super exciting for a team like that to make a deep run. I'm curious, what are your thoughts, Brandon?
Well, looking at the standings right here, they are currently, I think, 1 or 2 games ahead of the Dodgers, who, like you just mentioned, star-studded teams stacked with no salary cap. I think the Dodgers are kind of like the team that comes to mind, if not maybe the New York Yankees. Best record in baseball, leading the National League, like impressive stuff. They keep up this level of play, could be making a deep run in October, so that'll be exciting for Brewers fans.
Yeah, it's fun to see. They're a great team to root for. Obviously, like I said, they are a very homegrown team, which you don't see a ton of out of successful teams in baseball anymore. I mean, I think you just see the rich owners and the big markets going crazy. You look at the Dodgers, Mookie Betts, Shohei Ohtani. That's not homegrown talent. They picked them up through trades or free agency. And that's really been the story of baseball a lot recently. So I'm excited to see a very homegrown team succeeding. I hope they keep it up. I'd love to see them make a run. And that is what I have to say on that. So moving on, we have the NBA Summer League just came to a conclusion. The Charlotte Hornets defeated the Sacramento Kings 83 to 78 in the championship game. Number 4 pick in the draft, Con Knupples scored 21 in the final game, sort of willed the Hornets to beat the Kings, and that effort won him the Summer League MVP. So I'm curious, Brandon, what were your thoughts on the Summer League as a whole?
I thought it was entertaining. Some pretty fun basketball to watch there. I caught most of the Celtics summer league games. Wasn't able to watch a ton of the other teams compete. Obviously, like when you look at summer league and sort of how you watch it, what it translates to in the regular season, just because the Hornets won the summer league, can't really tell if that's going to impact their team that much come regular season. Because I mean, besides Concanopoulos, maybe you see 1 or 2 guys on that summer league squad make Charlotte's like actual roster, but definitely exciting. Um, if you're a Charlotte fan, something to root for, something to cheer for. Obviously, not to harp on Charlotte's fan base or the franchise, but haven't been the most successful in years past. I believe all of their playoff wins in the last like 10 years came from one series back when Kemba Walker was on the team. So I guess this means you have some exciting young players, which they definitely need. Give some help to LaMelo Ball. Hopefully, can at least fight for a play-in spot this year. If you're a Charlotte fan, if you hope this Colin Knoble guy can develop into a at least a solid starter this year, and LaMelo can stay healthy, maybe Charlotte will be better. Other than that, not much to say on the summer league. I enjoyed watching the Celtics summer league play. Thought it was exciting. Some good basketball. So yeah, that's
Yeah, I
about it for
think
me.
I think the summer league was fun. I mean, it's interesting to see these guys that won't normally show out like this and make, super exciting, flashy plays, really take advantage of being like the number one guy, number two guy on a team. I think in terms of both the Charlotte Hornets and the Sacramento Kings, I mean, it's definitely got to be exciting because you look at those two teams and you see franchises that really haven't had any success ever. Um, so you look at that and you really only have to be thinking about the future as a Hornets fan or a Kings fan. And so to see these young guys showing out for your teams, even if not everybody's going to make the team and it might not necessarily translate to real NBA basketball, it's got to be exciting. I mean, Con Knuppel was doing it all summer league, so that's exciting for the Hornets. Maybe LaMelo will finally have some help if he himself can stay healthy. The Kings, I don't really know where they're going, to be honest. I mean, you look at their actual roster, and it's a mix of really promising young talent with just like old stars that have never really succeeded. You look at DeMontis Sabonis, who fills the stat sheet but has never contributed to super winning basketball. You look at DeMar DeRozan, another player that fills the stat sheet, super efficient mid-range shooter, never really won anything crazy. And then you look at the rest of that team. Keegan Murray, Davion Mitchell. You got some great, interesting young pieces there, but it's just kind of a weird clash and combination right now where you have the vets who have not contributed to winning culture trying to imprint upon these younger guys. The Hornets, I don't really think have that problem. They just don't really have any older guys on that roster, to be honest. So they're young, they're fresh. It could be interesting to see what happens. And I mean, that's what the summer league's all about, to be honest. It's all about what happens next. It's all about the future. So congratulations to the Charlotte Hornets, I guess. I mean, I hope it goes well. It will be interesting to see the Charlotte Hornets be good for once. I don't think we've ever really seen that in our
No,
lifetimes.
not since they had maybe one or two seasons that they made the playoffs in the mid to late 2010s with Kemba. But other than that, it's been a rough ride for Charlotte, not just when they were the Hornets, but when they were the Bobcats too. They've had a rough run as a franchise for over 2 decades. So hopefully
Yeah,
they
it's been
can pull something out of the
interesting.
fire.
We'll see what's next for them. We'll see what's next for the Kings as well. But we have some more news in the NBA.
Yeah, this one's gonna hurt. This one's
I
gonna
don't,
hurt.
I don't
Any
even.
Boston fans, any Celtics fans, this was rough. This was I got this news. Was just driving in my car, and I don't even know. It's hard to say. I'm sure Patrick, this is gonna pain you to talk about. Uh, Once the fighting pride of the Boston Celtics, someone who embodied everything that Celtic culture is supposed to be. Marcus Smart signed with the Los Angeles Lakers in this offseason. Uh if you're a Lakers fan, you're excited. You're getting a absolute dog of a defensive guard on a team that really hasn't had too much defense. Last year they struggled with defense, so it'll be a good acquisition for the Lakers. Obviously, Marcus had a rough couple of years. Really, it's been rough for him post Celtics as he's sort of bounced around from the Grizzlies to the Wizards. But if he stays healthy, he can still contribute to winning basketball. He's the type of guy where you love to have him on your team, but you hate to play against him. So to Los Angeles, I mean, take care of Marcus, man. I was really I was really hoping he was going to sign with the Celtics. I had my fingers crossed. I didn't know how likely it was, but I was hoping for it. So seeing that he signed with the purple and gold, it made me a little sick to my stomach. I was like, can this offseason get any worse for Boston Celtics fans? I was like, I don't know. It's been rough. But Pat, the guy with the Marcus Smart jersey hanging on his wall. What are your thoughts on
Yeah,
this?
this one was tough to take. I mean, it's funny we talked about it in the last episode. The first jersey I ever picked out for myself was a one of the green Marcus Smart Celtics jerseys. Um, you know, I heard this, and at the start, I almost just like didn't believe it. It's really tough to see. I think he signed like 2 years, $8 million, something like that. Really took a smaller contract, which sucks to see because like you're telling me we couldn't pay him that. I know we're scared of the second apron, but come on. Um, so I'll talk about his fit on the Lakers. He's probably gonna be coming off the bench when you look at that roster. I mean, they have Luka Doncic, they have Austin Reeves, but he is the kind of guy that can guard the best player on the court anytime he's out there. He's a solid playmaker, very streaky shooter, but when he's hot, he's hot. I remember watching him score 44 and set the Celtics record for three-pointers, tie the record, excuse me. Um, Still a great player. He's definitely not presented himself the best in the last 2 years. A lot of that has been attributed to injuries. I know he had some foot and ankle issues when he was with the Grizzlies, and then he also had some finger issues. I mean, when you look at his tenure with the Wizards in this last year, he averaged 9 points and 3 assists, so definitely a down year for him. He only played 34 games because of injury. But if he's healthy, he's going to be contributing very positively to that team. I'm excited to see him play again. It's been a minute since he's, really been out there consistently. It's just tough that it's going to be in a purple and gold jersey.
I'm
But
never gonna get used to that.
hopefully he can contribute to a winning culture. Don't win too much because they're the Lakers, but hopefully he can contribute to a winning culture. My question for you, Brandon, is does this affect Marcus Smart's legacy as a Boston Celtic?
It's tough. My gut reaction is yes. I hate when Celtics players sign with the Lakers. It just something feels very, very wrong about seeing someone who used to go to war for the Celtics wear the purple and gold. Just feels very, very gross to look at as a Boston fan. On the other hand, it's not the first time it's happened. Rajon Rondo won the finals with the Lakers in 2020. He's probably one of the best Celtic point guards in history. So it's happened. I don't like it. I wish Marcus had came here, but when it comes to like what
Anywhere
Marcus will
else,
be
really.
remembered, yeah, I mean, if obviously it sucked when we lost Marcus in the KP trade. I was heartbroken that we had to send him away. But if he was on the Grizzlies or the Wizards, it's like, all right, I can live with that. It's bad, but I don't hate it. The Lakers just something else. Something it's just so bad. I
Yeah,
That
it's
just
a worst
hurts.
possible scenario when you look at a Celtics legend going to the Lakers, and I do call him a Celtics legend. He spent 10 years with us, especially some pretty bad years, but he contributed very well to winning culture with the team. He was a good leader. He really embodied Boston Celtics culture. Um, it was really sad to see him go. I mean, the team straight up betrayed him. You had a guy that was here for 10 years and he really just gets kicked to the curb. We won a championship because of it, but it still doesn't sit right with me the way we did him. So does it affect his legacy as a Celtic? In my opinion, no, it does not. I mean, how can you have ties with a team that does you like that? Do I wish they, amended that beef? Do I wish he came back? Absolutely. But at the end of the day, it's not his fault what they did to him. So,
No, you can't
and you
blame
look
him for
at
the team trading him.
you look at what he did for us. I mean, we talk about the way he affected winning culture. He also has one of the most impressive defensive player of the year awards of all time. I mean, you look at it, he's the only guard to win a defensive player of the year since the hand check was abolished. The only one. Nobody else has done it. Not Drew Holiday, not Derek White, not any other impressive defensive guards you can think about. Nobody else has done it because you see these bigs securing crazy amounts of blocks. Defense has really turned into funneling a guy into the paint and letting a big stuff him. That's how they build defenses. That's how Rudy Gobert has won 4 defensive player of the years, even though he can't guard the perimeter worth anything.
That always bothered me. That's one of the reasons that I was so happy that Marcus won it that year, because I would see, oh, Rudy Gobert is top three in DPOY voting, but he's borderline unplayable in certain playoff series because he just gets exposed. I mean, I
Players
think
like that,
we've all seen that clip of Luka Doncic making him spin around like four consecutive times with crossovers and then step back 30-foot three in his face. And it's like, this guy won DPOY. Are we for real?
it's not
So
a
that's it made Marcus's so much better.
it's not a defensive player of the year award in that case. It's a defensive system of the year award in that case.
Yeah.
I mean, they set him up for success to just swat some shots. If you can't guard more than 2 positions, how are you going to be the defensive player of the year? Um, and Marcus really guarded the 1 through 4. I mean, you saw him putting a body on Giannis in certain instances and doing a pretty good job at it. So I'm really excited to see what he does this year, even if it is with the Lakers.
Ugh.
That's probably all I want to talk about that, to be honest. I mean,
Yeah. That was painful. That was
yeah.
painful.
So moving on, we actually have even more bad news. In the world of the WWE, Seth Rollins sustained another knee injury. He was going for a springboard moonsault off the second rope and just kind of landed weirdly. He tweaked his knee, and they ended the match pretty immediately after that. It was at Saturday night's main event, I believe now, not this past Saturday, but the week before on Saturday. And we didn't
Yep.
talk about it in our last episode because we were kind of unsure where this was going. I mean, in the world of WWE, you're unaware how legitimate anything is, or if it's a work, if it's a story. Um, and in the case of Seth Rollins, it's still pretty unclear. I mean, it's clear that he definitely got hurt, but we're unsure of what the severity is because the WWE and Seth Rollins have both played these cards very close to their chest. And you've seen Seth Rollins, I believe he made an appearance on like the Rich Eisen show over in Chicago, and he seemed fine. He seemed like he was walking normally. So I'm unaware of how bad this injury is. A guy like Seth Rollins, really anybody, but especially a workhorse like Seth Rollins, you don't want to see them go down because clearly he loves wrestling. I mean, he's on every single week. He's wrestling almost every single week. And he's carrying that Money in the Bank briefcase. What do I think happens with Seth Rollins? I think he comes back sooner than we're expecting. I don't think WWE would be holding this super close to their chest if it's as bad as they're portraying it to be. So I think he comes back sooner than later. Do I think it's at SummerSlam in a couple of weeks, which is the second biggest show of the year? We'll definitely be covering that in further episodes. Do I think he comes back then? Probably not. I think they give it some more time. I mean, you give the guy a perfect reason to go and just rehab a little bit, get his body right. He should definitely take it. What are your thoughts on this, Brandon? What are your predictions for where Seth Rollins comes back?
Obviously, it's tough to see Seth go down. He's had an unfortunate history with injuries, so obviously we hope that it's a story or it's not that severe. Did look like he landed a little funny. I was concerned at the end of the match so quickly after. I thought initially like, oh, this could be really bad, but like you said, it's hard to tell with the WWE. They don't typically disclose who's injured and what the diagnosis is the way you see with an NFL or UFC or something like that. So it's tough to tell how severe it is. I don't think he'll come back at SummerSlam. I feel like that's a little too soon, but you never know. He's got the Money in the Bank, which I think from a storytelling perspective means they're going to look for that sort of like shock and awe surprise value with the briefcase. So honestly, just hope he's healthy. I just hope he heals up quick from whatever's going on and gets back in there because he's an absolute joy to watch from a wrestling perspective. So,
Yeah, he's a demon in the ring, demon on the mic. He's really been one of the best characters for the WWE for the past 10, 15 years. I mean, he's been doing it forever. He's carried the company through some pretty poor times for them. Um, But yeah, in terms of injuries, really the only times they disclose injuries is when they're really bad. Like you look at Kevin Owens, who got really banged up in a ladder match earlier this year. He came out to the ring and said, "Yeah, I broke my neck. I'm going to be out for a long time. We'll see what happens." And those are really the only times like that is when, they disclose an injury like that. That gets very real. But this still has that air of mystery, that air of WWE story around it. So it's very unclear as to when he'll come back. Um, Thinking of it now, they have another story kind of like this going on right now, just on Monday Night Raw last night. We saw Grayson Waller, one half of A-Town Down Under, come on to the TV and announce that Austin Theory got himself injured and their tag team broke up. So that's another one where we don't know what happened to Austin Theory. We don't know how bad this injury really is, or if it even is an injury. That's one of the things that makes the WWE so complicated is sometimes, the line between real and fake gets really hairy. So get well soon, Seth Rollins, get well soon. Austin Theory. I know, Brandon, you're a very big Austin Theory fan.
A town down, baby.
Yep. So we'll see what's coming next for them, and we'll definitely be talking about SummerSlam more. Definitely next week, I believe. SummerSlam is a two-night event this year. August 2nd and 3rd, I want to say that Saturday and Sunday. It's going to be huge. We'll have some predictions and then obviously we'll have some reactions afterwards. But so if you enjoy our wrestling segments, definitely look forward to that next week. But we have more to talk about today, which is going to be UFC 318.
So
Uh,
I was able to catch all of this actually. I caught the main card and some of the prelims at one of my friend's house. So I'm just gonna go through the main card and kind of go through the decisions and sort of the consequences of each fight. Kicking off the main card, Michael Johnson beat Daniel Zellhuber. Pretty obvious decision there, which I was surprised by. Michael Johnson is pushing 40 or 40 years old. He's getting up there in UFC sort of mileage, and he beats a very dangerous prospect in Daniel Zellhuber uh, pretty convincingly. Looked really fast, still had power. fists, his hands, his boxing was very clean. So kind of surprised to see Michael Johnson do that, but hey, good for him. Still kicking at 40 years old in the UFC is impressive. Moving up, featherweights, Dan Ige and Patricio Pitbull clashed. Pitbull wins the decision. Wasn't the most exciting fight. Pitbull utilized his wrestling to get that one done, and Dan Ige really couldn't get much offense going due to the sort of pressure that Pitbull was giving him. So Pitbull gets a win, his first win in the UFC. Would like to see him fight up and potentially look to get a ranking next. Uh, Next up, welterweight, Kevin Holland, Daniel Rodriguez. I had Kevin Holland winning this one in my predictions, and he lost to Daniel Rodriguez, which I was not calling at all. It was a competitive fight for sure, but it's rough. Kevin Holland's been in a cycle where he gets a good win. He says he's going to commit himself to a certain weight division. He's going to look to make a run, and then he has a loss. And it's like, well, where does he go from here? He's either unranked or like 14 or 15 at welterweight, so not sure who they're going to match him up with next. Paulo Costa, Roman Kopylov in the co-main event at middleweight. Costa needed a win bad here, and he got it. He looked absolutely phenomenal. He had some ridiculously hard leg kicks. Body kicks were fantastic. He looked really quick. His hands looked sharp. He scored a knockdown in round two. Kopylov really couldn't get much going of anything. Kicks, punches. He was mostly on the back foot for the majority of the fight. So Paulo Costa definitely performed well there. Got the needed win. Called out Khamzat Chimaev in the post-fight interview, which is he getting that fight right now? No. But if he wins maybe one or two more fights, could be something that happens. And then, of course, the main event, Max Holloway and Dustin Poirier fought for the BMF title. Max Holloway got the decision win. I believe it was like 49-46, 49-46, 48-47. It was a really good fight. Both guys had their moments. I believe in round two, Holloway scored a knockdown on Poirier, and then Poirier got back up, scored a knockdown on Holloway. They slugged it out in the last 10 seconds in true BMF fashion. And as the resident Dustin Poirier fan, I was heartbroken. I really wanted to see him get a win in his last fight, but his post-fight interview was really, really something. He mostly just expressed his gratitude for the sport and for the fans for giving him a chance to fight and put his family in a good position. And he also made a comment that he didn't know how loved he was by the UFC community until this week when he saw like all the support that he had from his fans, from his city, from fellow fighters, which I thought was really cool. And the UFC put together a pretty good sort of farewell video, which you can find on the UFC's Instagram. I was feeling a little emotional watching that. I'm not gonna lie, it was a tough watch. Gonna miss him. Poirier is an absolute legend of the sport. Has one of the best resumes, I think, in the history of the sport. He has wins over Justin Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Conor McGregor, Max Holloway, just legend after legend after legend. Fought straight up killers for over a decade. Joined the UFC in 2011, and in my opinion, is the greatest fighter to never hold undisputed gold in the UFC. Which obviously is a tough distinction, but something that I like to say, and I've seen circulating the internet, is diamonds don't need gold to shine. I will always be Dustin Poirier's fan, and he will probably go down as one of the greatest mixed martial artists to ever do it. So that's my sort of spiel on 318. Pat, if you had
Yeah,
anything to
so
add?
obviously, congratulations to the Diamond on an incredible career and honestly a great story. Before he found the UFC, he had gotten himself into a little bit of trouble, and then you see himself work his way into this promotion and work so hard and be so successful that he's turned into such a beloved figure in the eyes of UFC and MMA fans. So, congratulations, Dustin Poirier, and enjoy retirement. My question for you, Brandon, is you sort of touched on it a little bit. Obviously, he has so many incredible fights and incredible wins under his belt, but he's never held a belt. So my question to you is, where does the Diamond rank all time in your UFC ladder? If you could give like a rough estimate. in your
So
very extremely biased opinion.
yeah, so definitely a little biased here. Dustin's my guy. But if we're looking at lightweight, I would put him solidly at five in the top five. I would say the four guys that come ahead of him are BJ Penn, Charles Oliveira, Habib Nurmagomedov, and Islam Makhachev. But after those four, I think Dustin sits at top five in lightweight all time. And I would probably put him inside the top 30 all time, which I know sounds crazy because he never held an undisputed belt. But there have been fighters that had the undisputed belt that I think rank below him. Like Juliana Pena's held the women's bantamweight belt twice, and she is undoubtedly. I wouldn't put her anywhere near the level of Dustin Poirier. There have been guys who, like Anthony Pettis, was an undisputed UFC champion at one point. I think Poirier is way better than him. They fought. Poirier fought Anthony Pettis and he beat him. So I think it's tough to gauge. Obviously, undisputed belts do mean a lot in terms of your legacy, but I think Poirier's body of work is so impressive that he's able to work his way into these conversations without it. He did hold an interim title back in 2019. He defeated Max Holloway for that interim belt, which, like you said, I'm biased. I think that interim title victory holds more weight than some people's undisputed title victories. I would say that that was a more impressive win for Dustin Poirier than John Jones beating up 42-year-old Stipe Miocic for an undisputed belt. Um, so yeah, I would say top five lightweight. I would put him in my top 30 all time for his career.
Now, let me ask you this. If there's like one thing that the Diamond has that really separates him, that is able to put him in those conversations, even though he hasn't had the accolades, what would you say that is? Like in your eyes, looking at the sport.
It's his resume. It really comes down to his resume and the body of work that he did, the amount of guys that he faced, the amount of guys that he beat. I believe he holds wins over six former undisputed champions. He has beaten so many big names over the year. He beat Eddie Alvarez, who was a former Bellator and former UFC champion. He beat Anthony Pettis, who was a former UFC champion. Michael Chandler was a former Bellator champion. He has two wins over Conor McGregor, who is a former two division champion. He has beaten so many Hall of Famers. He beat former interim champ Justin Gaethje. He's had an absolutely incredible career and faced nothing but the best that the promotion had to offer for the better part of almost a decade and a half in the UFC. So I would say when looking at Poirier's career, you really have to look at his resume and look at the names, not just his record, but who he beat to get those wins. And even some of the guys he lost to. When he went for his undisputed title fights, he fought the three best lightweights of all time. He fought Habib, Charles Oliveira, and Islam Makhachev, and he gave them all tough fights. So obviously, tough to rank him higher than those guys, but definitely should be in those conversations.
That's a great analysis. I know we got some news on upcoming UFC events from Dana White himself, not us personally, but us as in the sporting community. Receive news from Dana White on upcoming UFC events. I'm curious what your insight into this is, Brandon, or just your general opinion going into 320 and 321.
So UFC 320 targeted for early October. I think the first Saturday in October. Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen for the bantamweight title, which is a fight that I like. I think it will be fun. I feel like Marab's gonna win because it's kind of hard to bet against the guy. He's been an absolute machine in his last run. So a good fight. I think Sandhagen deserves a shot at the belt. Definitely be interesting to watch. Good stylistic matchup. Sandhagen's a very well-rounded fighter, very exciting striker. Dwalsh really just never gets tired and has some insane grappling skills. And then for the main event, Alex Pereira versus Magomed Ankalaev for the light heavyweight title, which is a fight I think we all saw coming. Frankly, it's one that the division needs. Pereira is one of the biggest stars in the UFC right now, and him getting a rematch, another shot at the title in the same city he lost it, will definitely be exciting. I'll be tuned in for that. I feel like the UFC community is not that much of a fan of Magomed Ankalaev. He doesn't really market himself the best and doesn't have the reputation for being the most exciting fighter. So I believe the large majority of UFC fans will be hoping Pereira gets his belt back. And then UFC 321, Tom Aspinall gets his first undisputed title defense against none other than Cyril Gahn. Um, what are we doing? What are we doing here? This is Cyril's third title shot in the last, what is that, 3 years? He got a shot at Francis Ngannou at UFC 270. He got wrestled for 5 rounds. He got a shot at John Jones at 285. He got choked out in the first round. I don't know why he's getting a third shot here. I don't think he did enough to deserve it. He arguably lost his last fight against Alexander Volkov. He shouldn't be ranked first in the heavyweight division, but he is because UFC judges like to score fights with blindfolds on, I guess. I don't know. It's definitely frustrating to see as a fan because I think there are guys in that division. Volkov, I would give Jelton Almeida a shot over Cyril Gahn. I think there are guys in the division who have arguably earned their shot more than Cyril. Especially a third title shot is absurd. But what are you gonna do? If you're a Tom Aspinall fan, I'd be a little bit scared because if Aspinall does lose this fight, you're gonna have to hear John Jones on Twitter for the next like year talking about how he's the greatest fighter ever and he knew Tom wasn't good and he knew it wouldn't add to his legacy. So I think this is a big fight for Aspinall. Obviously, he's got to go out there and show out and prove that he's the best in the world against a dangerous fighter. I know I just spent the last like 2 minutes arguing why Cyril Gahn shouldn't get a title shot. He's still a very talented fighter. I think he's probably one of the only guys that can go strike for strike in terms of speed and skill with Aspinall. But his grappling has been his Achilles heel in his last couple of fights. His takedown defense isn't great. He doesn't really have that many submissions from the bottom. So I would say way too early prediction is an Aspinall submission or decision. Um, but hey, we'll see. There's a reason they actually do the fights instead of just listening to me speculate about them. So I'll have my eyes peeled to the screen in October for these fights.
Yeah, I think Cyril Gahn's an interesting choice. I mean, it definitely brings in, is it Dana White privilege? Definitely a conversation to have at this point. I'm personally excited to finally see Tom Aspinall doing something again. Tom Aspinall is probably one of the biggest budding stars in the UFC. And that division is supposed to be the marquee of the UFC, even if it is a little weaker than it should be right now. But it's going to be interesting to see Tom Aspinall fight again. And while you said Tom Aspinall fans should be worried, I'm kind of excited. I think Tom Aspinall fans should be excited because he's going to be going into this one with the chip on his shoulder. The way he won an interim title and now you have the undisputed title. You didn't win it by beating John Jones, who is arguably the greatest fighter of all time. You were just kind of handed it because John Jones weaseled out. He was ducking you. So you need to show out. You need to put a mark on the UFC and you need to, put your stamp on history. And so if I'm Tom Aspinall, I'm ready to crush skulls. I think it's going to be fun. I agree with you. I don't think Cyril Gahn's the right choice. I would have loved to see a Volkov fight. I think that's just a great stylistic matchup as well. But we'll see what happens in the future. Um, it should still be fun. Moving on, we got some viewer questions coming up, but there is one more thing I wanted to touch on before we get there. And that was the Open Championship, which happened, I believe, this past weekend. Scotty Scheffler won his fourth major tournament in 2025. I mean, it's just been an unstoppable run of dominance, freak athleticism, which is something you don't necessarily talk about in golf very often. I know we've talked about him twice on this show already for two previous tournament wins. So I'm going to say it one more time and then we'll get into the viewer questions. If you're not paying attention, you should. Even if you don't like golf, if you like any sports, if you like anything to do with sports, this is a run of dominance that is pretty unheard of. Because I know Brandon and I aren't huge golf guys. I've dabbled a little bit, not very good myself, but any sort of, athlete that's putting on a performance like this is gonna be interesting to watch. I'm curious, do you have any thoughts on that, Brandon, or should we get into the viewer questions?
No, I feel like you pretty much covered it. 4 tournament wins in 2025 is undoubtedly an impressive achievement, and he's looking to be a bigger and bigger name, not just in golf, but in the sports world in general. So it'll be definitely exciting to follow. I'm not much of a golf fan. I definitely don't watch a ton of golf, but the more I hear about it, the more I'm thinking, maybe I should tune in. Maybe I can pick up some tips, fix my own broken swing. So that'll be something to follow in the future, especially in these summer months where sports seem so dry for the most part.
He is a young guy too. Scotty's, I believe, mid to late 20s. So he's going to be around for quite a while. And there are very few golfers that have had super consistent runs of dominance. I mean, one of the reasons why you talk about Tiger Woods is because of how dominant he was for so long. So will Scotty be able to keep this up in the years to come? Or is it, just a stroke of dominance, a stroke of luck? Who knows? We'll see. All I know is it's been an exciting ride so far, and I'm interested in what he's got next. But moving on, we do have two viewer questions today. And just as a reminder, if you like the show, if you're curious about anything, don't be afraid to submit any questions you have. We've answered some pretty weird stuff before, so we don't shy away from that. I believe our link tree with the viewer question submission form is attached in the About section of our YouTube. It's in the bio of our Instagram, and I believe it's also on our Spotify. So you can find it pretty much anywhere you find the show. But moving on, our first viewer question from Logan M. in Bellingham, Massachusetts. Which college football teams do you think will be better or worse than last season? So I've marked down two myself that I want to talk about, and then I'll hand off the torch to you, Brandon. I'm excited for the college football season to finally pick back up. It's been a minute since we've had football, so it's going to be exciting, especially just to pick back up the sports world because again, we're in a very dry period right now. But I've got two teams that I think are probably going to be worse. Obviously, we're looking at Colorado. You lose Travis Hunter, you lose Shadeur Sanders. It's definitely going to be a new look for them. And while they still got primetime coaching over there, it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Were they the greatest team in football these past couple of years? No. But were they good? Were they entertaining? Absolutely. So it's going to be interesting to see what they can come up with and what their new identity is going to be following the exit of these two pretty prolific athletes, especially Travis Hunter. And then the other team I wanted to bring up is Michigan. Obviously, they just won the championship in pretty dominant fashion. But the reason why I bring Michigan up is because repeats in college sports is almost unheard of. We saw Georgia do it a couple of years ago, but it's not something you see happen very often or at all. Um, so will they do it again? Probably not. Will they still be competitive? Sure. Do you have anything else to add, Brandon? Any teams that you're looking at to be good? Any teams you're looking at to be horrible?
One team that I thought was probably not going to be as good as they were last year was Boise State, losing Ashton Gianti, who was, not to insult the other guys on the roster, but he was the focal point of their offense. Like, guy rushed for over 2,000 yards. He's an absolute workhorse in the backfield. You lose someone like that, who's basically your offensive identity, kind of a recipe for struggles in the following season. So probably won't be as dominant of a rushing attack as they had this year. But other than that, I don't watch enough college football to be quite frank to make any solid, depthful predictions. But I think this year will probably be one of the first years that I do follow college football more closely. Usually I'm so wrapped up in the NFL and the Patriots that I just don't have the time. But heck, why not?
Yeah, we brought up three negatives, so I guess I'll throw a positive in there. I mean, us personally, we're looking at Central Connecticut State University to make some noise in the NEC again. Play-by-play alum Brady Olson looking to go back to back in the NEC Conference Championship with the boys. Hopefully, make some noise in the FCS playoffs. Definitely a team to look out for. I mean, they've only been improving since they've retooled their team, brought in their new coach, so they're going to be an exciting watch. Make sure to look out for them this year. And moving on, we have one more viewer question. Definitely an interesting one. Not our normal type of question, but it's fun enough to answer anyways. End off the episode on a fun note. From Ethan S. in Medway, Massachusetts. If you guys were given as much money to go on a vacation as you wanted, where would you go and why? So, Brandon, I'll let you start this one.
Dang. Plainville, Massachusetts. Um,
Said
dang.
nobody ever.
That's a good question from Ethan. I got to think about that one for a second because not a whole lot's immediately popping into my
Would you like
head.
me to go first?
Yeah,
We
you know
can
what, Pat? Let's
switch it
you
around.
you take this one. I'll think about it for a second.
So, I mean, I was thinking about it and it came to my mind really quick. I had like a couple thoughts, but there's one that I've wanted to do forever. I've always wanted to go to Greece, tour the
Solid
mainland. There,
pick.
there are plenty of historical sites. I'd love to go see Athens. I'd love to go see the mountains. And then I'd also just love to, go visit maybe like a Mykonos, go sit on some white sand beaches, crystal clear water. You can't complain about that. And then like the history, the culture, the food. It's a super exciting place. They also do have some great sports over there, so I guess it's
Yeah,
related. I know the sports fans go crazy. They go crazy for their soccer. They go crazy for their basketball. So maybe catching a game over there would be really fun too. But that's got to be my answer. And now it's back to you, Brandon. I hope that was enough
dang.
time to formulate something.
Yeah, yeah. One place in the States that I've always wanted to visit, and this is gonna sound a little strange, is Montana. Such a beautiful state from like a nature perspective, a little bit more rural. You get away from all the city. I would love to just go out there and maybe go for a hike along a river, up a mountain, something peaceful, something a little bit removed from the more urban areas. If we're talking like overseas,
As much money as you want.
as much money as I want. Oh my. Um,
This dude's going to
dang,
party in Ibiza,
you
obviously.
you give a pretty solid persuasive argument for why people should go to Greece. I wouldn't be averse to going and seeing Mount Olympus. Big Percy Jackson fan when I was growing up, so seeing Mount Olympus, where all the maybe see the temple of Athens, something like that. That would be cool. Um, it's cool. I guess Rome would be cool. Rome would be a cool place to be. I've heard it's ridiculously hot and it's a lot of walking, but seeing the Colosseum, seeing all the history in that city as well would be pretty cool. Um, yeah, but I'm not going anywhere dangerous. I
No
want to
North Korea
relax.
for you?
No, and I to extend the word dangerous, I'm not going anywhere that's like too far out in the ocean. I'm not going up a dangerously high mountain. I'm not going cave diving. Like I want to like you said, white sand, beaches, little food. That's my idea of vacation. I'm not using my hypothetical unlimited money to go cave diving and get like stuck between like a rock that has like a half a meter opening. And that's not my idea of a vacation. Um, so yeah, somewhere relaxing. I would say either somewhere rural in the United States with a lot of like really great sort of nature around it, or yeah, Rome sounded pretty cool. I would love to see the Colosseum. Big fan of Gladiator, so
Great movie. Great movie. Technically a sports movie. I mean, it is a sporting event. We
yeah,
should have thrown that into the list last episode. But anyways, thank you for the great question. Ethan S, when you want to send us that money, we'll go on those vacations and let you know how it is.
for real.
Aside from that, that is going to be all from us at the Play by Play today. Thank you for listening. Make sure to check out our Instagram, YouTube, and Spotify. And make sure to stay tuned for our next episode next week. More big things coming. Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to the Play by Play with Patrick and Brandon. Make sure to check out our Instagram and stay on the lookout for new episodes on YouTube or Spotify.